troll aspect here.
What? I wasn't even listening to you.
Cecil Captain's Day.
All right.
Gore log, or excuse me, Gore Zone log. We get to that today too. How Gore Zone and Star Log and all that stuff went through another transition.
Right, so pop out the chat here so we can see the chat from everyone. Ta-ta. All right, so I'm going to move that there, and I'm going to move this over here, and I'm just going to keep an eye out on this color. Actually, you know what? I'm going to switch these.
I've been legit thinking about just getting rid of this damn thing, man. Especially
your wizard's beard? You
yes,
should.
The wizard beard, yes. It's the contagion beard is what I've been...
Yeah, well,
the pandemic.
Jack Black just did an entire episode where he shaved all the hair off of his face and head. And he's like, yeah, I hear it's kind of COVID carriers. And it's like, yeah, that's what I hear too.
Oh, that's delightful.
Let me see if we are live yet.
Well, I'll do you if you do me, boo. I mean, I'll shave your head and
no,
shave
I'm
you
good.
down.
I'm good, bro. I gotta. I mean, I would sure if you want. If we, I guess we could make that an episode. Yeah.
Well, that would be a much bigger step for me, obviously.
Let's do. Wait, you'll do this too?
No, and that's where you said like face and head, man.
Bitch.
I had some podcaster guys, Sam, that I love that. Early in the pandemic, they're in California. They were like stuck in their homes as opposed to the regular studios that they're at, and they were like, "What sort of silliness without the full crew can we do as we're trying to figure out, Zoom and Skype and all these different ways to live stream things?" And they were like, "Well, let's just shave most of our facial hair off and shave each other's heads." And it was a very interesting bro situation of sorts, but it was very funny. So,
what's up, Aaron Anderson? What's up, Dylan Fouch? What's up, Ben Grimm? Aaron asks, could you beat CP in Fall Guys? Yes, if the dude would frickin' show up. At both times I've tried to play Fall Guys, it was because I wanted to play with CP, but both times there was some kind of miscommunication where we didn't get to play together. So we will play together, damn it.
I do have to shout out to CP.
They're mostly rage streams, though.
yeah, because tomorrow night Showbiz returns for the first time in forever.
Fair enough.
Because they're trying to reopen.
Filthy Dan's film discussion is here. Fuego, your beard is getting insane, freaking amazing. We were literally just talking about how we're getting rid of our beards soon, and we might have to make an episode out of it. I think if you're going to do it, we need to make an episode out of it.
Well, I guess at this point,
we'll do like a farewell to beards.
Well, we both have birthdays coming up.
True.
In less than a month now.
You're not wrong. Yeah. So, all right, let's do this. The biggest
and most important thing is for us to welcome our patron.
Well, hey, hang on, I got to do an intro first. Hey, everyone, I'm Cecil Laird.
And I'm Jaime Fuego.
And this is the Horror Show News with Booze.
Yes.
That's right. And we are joined once again by our outstanding patron, Sam Glass. Welcome, Sam, once again.
In the Jonathan Harris role once again. Glad to be back.
All right, so I'm going to change some things here so you can actually see the chat. Well, I might need to just change the chat box to and increase the opacity there.
Cool. But in the meantime, while Cecil is
there we go.
Addressing those technical issues, we have to give a sincere, as I say in my tropiness, but sincere grande gracias. Exactly, to Sam for handing out these awesome shirts, sending them over to us.
Indeed. Sam has been a supporter of the channel even before he became an actual patron. He's been sending us movies. The first thing he sent us was a grip of soundtracks for Phantom of the Paradise, and he was, I think his hope was that we would review the movie after getting the soundtracks. Little did he know, we did not do that.
Well, I did.
You did on another channel, you son of a bitch. And I think we got into an argument about it at the time, if I'm not mistaken, where I was like, why would you do the review on another channel when our patron sent us the shit for it?
Like, Cecil and I ever argue?
No, I mean, we're brothers. Of course we do. But yeah, Sam, that discussion did happen behind the scenes. But here's the thing. I have now finally seen this movie. I watched it. Yeah.
Ah.
That's what I kept saying. I watched Repo. I was finally watching Repo.
Repo
the genetic opera. Yes.
Oh, this is Phantom of the Paradise, bro.
Oh, you're right. Oh my God, I fucked them up already. There you go. That's how far I'm in. Okay, so Phantom of the Paradise though, so that is still a musical though, right?
Yep.
Well, it's much more than.
Wow, I fucked that up big time.
There was much more of a narrative aspect in my estimation compared to Repo. I mean, Repo, yeah.
Okay, so I have hopes then, Sam, because I wasn't a big fan of Repo.
Maybe that's an unfair comparison. Wow, we are talking like decades of difference in this.
That's
regard.
good. So Phantom is better then?
In every way possible.
Awesome!
Adore
Thank
Phantom
God.
of-
Oh, I was so worried because I didn't
music-
like Repo, and I didn't. Yeah, I fucked that up big time.
Although this film has everything from a doo-woppy, like 50s kind of wow 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 kind of thing to I mean, you've got some disco vibes, you've got some ballad vibes, you've got the song with.
So I gotta add this now to my thing.
There's a performance that is almost very goth, borderline metal that Sam I've wanted to cover with my band, and it's Mr. Recast, and damn you, News with Booze. The name is totally eluding me of the character who, they just kind of push along throughout the entirety of the narrative. His goth bit is amazing, and I mean, you've got Jessica Harper in this, who was in Suburbia and various other amazing things. It's a completely
dying, of course.
Completely different. Completely different sort of situation. Phantom is amazing. It's a riff.
Well, I'm excited now because I wasn't a big fan of Repo, but I was like, I'm really surprised that Sam likes this much, but it's because I had fucked it up in my head. So I'm excited to watch Phantom now.
Fuego, you remember this? This is my favorite line. Speed. What do you know about it? You just pass the stuff out. I take it. I know the difference between drug real and real.
And it's from the aforementioned character, right? That I am totally, who has that shower scene and who is just amazing comic relief throughout, and every bit he's like the poached rock star that they try to fix the situation with. And you've got nefarious producers. You've got somebody who has the. Well, I'm not trying to, He's not even listening. Since he doesn't have headphones, well, I guess that doesn't really matter in this particular part. But
I was still listening to you. You're still right next to me.
There was a riffing on Romeo and Juliet. Thanks, News with Booze. There's a riffing on Romeo and Juliet. There is a gothness to it at times.
There's that too in Repo, because literally the dude that was in Romeo and Juliet is in Repo. Okay, so it's on Shudder. So good. I'm gonna add it to my Shudder right now.
These movies are not even comparable, and I actually do own it on the I think it's Shout Factory or Scared, whatever the hell it is. I do have the collector's Blu-ray of this that I purchased right after I saw it at a small screening at Phoenix Film Bar with Amanda when her and I were still
it's not showing up on Shudder, but it says it's on Amazon Shudder.
Well, so that's why I will bring it to you, so we don't have to worry about it.
Yeah, bring it to me.
But yeah, Phantom of the Paradise, I mean...
I'm going to catch up with it.
We'll remember.
All right, so now that we've given everyone time to filter in, let's say hello to some people. So we have Dylan Fouch here, we have Ben Grimm, we have Aaron Anderson, we have Adam S, we have Dale Strunk is here. What's up, Dale? And Eddie D is here as well. We had Josh Murray and Filthy Dan's film discussion earlier, along with Lost Boys Bayous is here as well. What's up? What's up? All right, guys, so we have a lot of news stories to discuss this week. A ton. So, Fuego, you want to get into it?
Yeah, and just to let everybody know, this has become a no longer weekly thing, as y'all have seen maybe in the last couple of months. This is a monthly thing, especially in the midst of the pandemic and all the craziness. We sincerely hope all of you are staying safe, making the right decisions, and, all of that according stuff. But, often we don't have enough horror news to fill a full ballot in a week, and so we're like, well, we'll do it bi-monthly or, just monthly. And yet, this is where we kind of have to fall on our faces, because there was so much horror news this month, as far as new stuff that's in development, as far as cancellations of shows, as far as, reiterations, various things.
I don't know if you have a particular order you want to tackle things in, but... There's a butt ton of Stephen King news and then a butt ton of other news as well.
Well, I mean, we don't always have to lead off with my beloved Stephen King.
So go ahead, take a look. What do you want to lead off with?
What do I want to lead off
I got it written down, so you take a look.
I do indeed see that.
Thank you for the $2 super chat, Lost Boy Bios. I appreciate it. Zachary Haith is here as well. Yeah, I know, Zachary. I should have watched Paradise like a year ago. Hopefully Fuego will bring me that, and I can finally watch this for Sam.
Well, I'm going to go in reverse order, because I feel like this is a good icebreaker, and this is very relevant with a lot of what we've dealt with, not just this year socially, but in the last couple of years with, the the Me Too movement and Time's Up and stuff like that. So Fangoria is again being revived and under new ownership. And so after just a few years ago, it was purchased and revived, and it was a multimillionaire. He was out in Texas, if I'm not mistaken. They relaunched the publication, and they were doing 4 issues a year, something like that, 4 or 6. But it was a very expensive price point for the subscription, and
it was like $8 or $10, or was it even 15?
I think it was 10 an issue. I mean, so much less than Gorezone and Starlog and stuff like that I used to see previously. But there was a big controversy that transpired recently with regards to this, and it was some nasty accusations that happened with one of their nearest and dearest, somebody who was in a highly developmental state as far as both the film and also the magazine sort of bit, at least to the best of my knowledge. And so correct me if I'm wrong in the chat, everybody, but lo and behold, they made some massive cuts with not just him, but people who were aware of the sort of predatory behavior that he was involved in. And they recently, there's a new owner. They are going to focus primarily now on new developmental content for that, streaming services, theatrical, if it's of that level, but also, VOD, so on and so forth. I guess the biggest thing that, as somebody, Sam, who was, trained as a journalist and then segued into this sort of on-camera work, is Fangoria still a viable property with its extensive 40-plus year history? Do you think people still care as far as... I mean, I know older, horror fans like us that, that was our one spot, probably along with Gorezone, to really see the nastiness of creativity that was coming through the pipelines in 80s and things of that nature. But is this a name that people still care about, especially with the new controversy that they're trying to get past?
Well, I know that for me, Fango has been a very integral part of my life. In fact, for me, when I was a kid, that was my Playboy.
Oh,
basically
same in a lot of ways.
Where most kids were hubba hubba looking at pictures of naked ladies, I was looking at pictures of split faces and exploded heads, going, "Oh my God, I'd love to do this shit when I grew up." But I think with time and with effort and with a really sincere eye towards changing and producing some really outstanding properties, I think Fango will still retain its legitimacy as far as the brand goes.
So I agree. I think. Well, I mean, again, if you're able to separate with the garbage that just happened,
nasty garbage.
But the craziness of $10 per magazine is really tough to swallow.
Yeah,
they have to really pack that shit full of goodness, because again, it's even stuff that I'm guessing you could get on the Fango website. So you really have to make it worth it for the people getting the magazine to do so. I would love if horror magazines made a comeback, because quite frankly, look, I'm going to be crude here, but horror magazines were my bathroom reading material. You could have that little rack in there, and the horror magazines were where it was at. You know what I mean? Like, could read about my genre as well as my behind the scenes kind of stuff. And I love those magazines. And so it was a bit of a bummer to see them go by the wayside with the advent and pervasion of the digital age. But ultimately, I like the idea, but their price point is really aggressive.
Well, I mean, the biggest thing was that they had relaunched, and then unfortunately, and there was that big thing with somebody directly attached to them, and that sort of just cancel out sort of nature, which, I mean, people debate cancel culture all the time, and there's higher and lower just situations in it. This one was 100% serious, well documented. There was a massive expose that was done by a higher profile publication that if you guys just search for that, since I'm not trying to throw that sort of drama on the cold, even if it really needs to be heard, Fangoria, nasty expose, or some sort of searching, you will figure out what the situation is. But lo and behold, one of the main producers from Tragedy Girls we now have a female presence that is going to be behind a major amount of Fangoria. Phil Nobley Jr. is still going to be handling the publication side, but they're really just committed to doing something on that production side that's drastically different than what garnered them controversy recently. So, Fango, I still love. It's the print side that I worry about with still trying to do that at that sort of price point. So.
Just a couple quick shout outs. Geek Out Cinema is here. It's Steven, who actually recently just backed the Dylan's New Nightmare campaign as an associate producer. So appreciate that, good sir. Thank you very much. Super Simi is here. Hey guys, what's the news? We're going through it right now. So,
Indeed.
Fuego, what's the next story?
Yeah, so the next bit that we are doing is the fact that Sphere is going to
Thank
be
you, Corey. What's up?
an
Corey Novak with a
HBO
$10
show.
super chat.
Oh yeah,
Sorry,
Corey
go
is
ahead.
always massive, awesome,
Corey's
supporter. No, absolutely badass. But so Sphere, Michael Crichton, a book that I have never read, but I do recall the film that I believe had Sharon
Dustin
Stone,
Hoffman,
Dustin
Sharon
Hoffman,
Stone,
I think Samuel L.
Sam
Jackson.
Jackson, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So all-star cast. Barry Levinson, if I'm not mistaken, directed it. 98, if I recall. As a kid, wanting more of a horror sort of vibe, I was a little underwhelmed. But this is definitely, and at least as far as the premise goes, being at the bottom of the ocean, that sort of sci-fi with the tinge of horror thriller investigatory aspect. Thank you, News with Booze, as I don't take another sip right now. But nonetheless, this is one that I feel like, especially with Crichton and the fact that as much as I loved like Rising Sun, Jurassic Park, Congo, things of that nature, what else?
Hot Zone.
Tons of stuff. I'm trying to think of the tech thriller with Michael Douglas and Demi, Disclosure.
Yeah.
That's another one. I mean, he was one of those guys that was so incredibly talented, doctorate, developed ER. I mean, he had such a scientific mind, but yet could still tackle human drama when he wanted to, and real scary situations in that regard, whether personal or of a large scale. I think Sphere could really be expanded in this regard. Did you see the original?
I saw the movie. I don't
remember
remember
it
if I
incredibly
actually
well.
read the book or not. I don't think
No.
I did. I have the book, but I don't think I ever read it.
I know producer Dave is
the movie
big
was
into
he
Crichton,
was
right?
a big Crichton
Loves
fan.
Crichton.
But the movie was just okay to me. I don't. Excuse me. Yeah. See, it's even boring me talking about it. No, I don't remember how it would be able to be expanded into a full TV series, other than the fact that it would cash in on the idea of underwater laboratory sort of thrills.
Which, if you guys haven't
Right.
seen Underwater with Kristen Stewart, it's
K-Stew, baby.
pretty awesome, I gotta say.
If you like Cthulhu or K-Stew, definitely watch that movie.
Ooh,
But
spoilers. Ooh.
is it? Anyway, so yeah, I mean, it could be cool, but it just depends on whether or not they do it right. So
Sam, is this a book you read or a film that you remember or held in any high regard?
I started reading Sphere before it came out, and I never finished the novel. The movie kind of baffled me because, like yourself, I wanted something more horror-centric, and this is more on the psychological, metaphysical side, and I was like, it's not great, but it's also not horrible. What I don't understand is why they grabbed this and not two of Crichton's more underrated properties, which have been Runaway, which I think is fucking awesome. That's a great movie. And Looker, which is actually more pertinent to what our tech is for this time than any of the other movies he ever did. I don't know if you remember Looker.
I don't. Yeah, both of those properties. I mean, I know
Looker
they've done Andromeda Strain like, 2 or 3 times now at this point, and he actually directed the original, right?
Yeah, Looker was Albert Finney, James Coburn, Susan Day, about the models that were being killed or the models that were dying as they had plastic surgery to exactly replicate how their faces would be the most beautiful. And what they were doing was they were killing the models and replicating them in a computer. Sound familiar? So they could use their likenesses in commercials and movies and whatnot, videos, and never have to pay them. You know, dead models don't, well, actually, virtual models don't need insurance. They don't have unions. they can work forever and you don't have to pay them or feed them or anything. So that was the whole premise.
That's like the equivalent of how stuntmen and women are so underappreciated and paid when they take some of the biggest risks and hits on some of these action movies, sci-fi, some of this big budget craziness, and they get no near amount of the proper regard. So,
but yeah, Looker and Runaway are both worth checking out. Gene Simmons is in Runaway.
Oh boy, that's not necessarily a selling point.
I am super intrigued about Looker though, because and it was honestly giving me kind of an antiviral vibe, just like a little bit, in just the just stand-in aspect of celebrity obsession and the weirdness of that. And that's a baby Cronenberg movie. I'm trying to remember if it was you or somebody else who requested antiviral on the. I was positive it was you, because I hadn't revisited it in a few years, and dude, was that so much more, even as the social media culture and just the vanity has become worse over the years. And I can't wait for Cronenberg's kid's new film that made the rounds earlier this year, and I think they've dated it for October, but I can't recall specifically. Just that vision of the woman with like the black sunken in eyes looks really, really crazy. So
Rusty Shackelford says you sold him on Looker, Sam, so good on you.
Okay.
Rusty was the one playing Fall Guys with me earlier.
Yeah, hell yeah. So. Okay, so next bit that we are going to discuss is the fact that a prior report has an official update with the story synopsis, and that is none other than Resident Evil is doing a Netflix TV series. Now, keep in mind, everybody, this is different from the theatrical reboot that the director of 47 Meters Down is working on, supposedly. I mean, we all hear announcements about projects and they fizzle out from time to time, but this one, Netflix officially announced and gave like a full, just a bit of what the story is going to entail. And I have a little bit of mixed feelings about it, but just to let you guys all know from personal memory. So there is going to be 2 different timelines, and it's all going to follow Albert Wesker's daughters. So Wesker has 2 daughters, and it's going to be jumping back and forth between when they are first moved into Raccoon City, pre-Resident Evil, like pre the first game, and then it's going to jump ahead like a couple decades to where there's only a small number of people left on the planet, and it's overrun with monsters, and they're trying to continue along and figure their shit out and, fight the good fight. So it's like, Wesker's kids, I'm assuming this is before he T-virused himself and became this big, massive nastiness. But the big criticism I saw from people like Cody Leach, who's a contemporary and a friend of ours, and various others, was that, why can't we just adapt Resident Evil as opposed to just... I don't think they're ever going to directly adapt this video game franchise at this point. And they're going to do more of the CGI.
They should. If they did, they would do a great job, but
I think so, but
they're just not willing.
I still feel like it's going to be more of like the CGI approach, where it's a side story. It's going to be almost like the Revolutions game or whatever, where it was Revelations, where you have these different just viewpoints, or what was this character doing when this other stuff was going on. It's like what they were doing with those novels that S.D. Perry and his daughter, and her father wrote back in the day. So, I don't know. Is there any anticipation for... I think it could be cool, since Netflix puts together pretty awesome stuff, and it really depends how tired of zombies you are and how tired of the Resident Evil franchise you are. I'm assuming this is going to coincide shortly after the new game, right?
Well, maybe. We'll see. I mean, I don't know. I can go either way on Resident Evil. If it's done well, I'll watch it. If not, I don't care. So at this point, they can't coast on the name anymore. But I don't write it off in any way, shape, or form. The last movie sucked. They really, that whole Mia Jovovich series derailed big time. So they have a chance to do it right and get it way more interesting. So if they do, then great. Let's have at it. But if not, man, I don't know. Abandon ship,
Yeah, Sam, I mean, either video game interest from before or the live action interest about this series. I feel like we've talked about Resident Evil at one point, and you told us that it was kind of ho-hum for you.
Yeah, I don't believe I ever got past Resident Evil 3 in terms of the movie franchise. I only played the game briefly, I think, in the first edition, and that's it. But I have to agree that, finding a way of expanding the universe rather than just rebooting and just doing it over and over and over and relying on the title to bring in money, probably not a good look.
Yeah, definitely not. And as we segue over, I still feel like that their new remake of 2 and 3 sell a ton of copies, and they're like, oh, well, let's get a new series in production. Let's remake the movie. Let's do that. So it's them recognizing the viability of the IP, and so in turn they're like, okay, well, let's get as much into production as possible. So that is a danger, unfortunately, to oversaturate the market. So
yeah, maybe they'll learn their lesson from looking at Blumhouse's Fantasy Island reboot.
Yeah, it's garbage.
Which I VOD'd on Redbox a few months ago, and I just never even ended up watching. I know Cecil reviewed it by himself. Bad. Well, it seemed so out of context of, and not to get derogatory, the plane, and just the more whimsical aspect of the show. There was a little darkness to the original version, obviously, but yeah, that was. Sometimes you can make a property that's not horror into something totally different, and sometimes doesn't necessarily work. So, all right, sweet. So, talk about remaking properties. We're going to be doing that for the next 2 little bits here.
Oh boy!
And yes, and we will forge forward since there has been lots of recording going on. But so the Thing officially announced that there is this Blumhouse reimagining that is going on. This is actually a story that we reported on a few months ago. Actually, I think it was a pre-COVID thing that we reported on, and that was they had the idea to adapt Who Goes There, which is the original novella which the Thing was based on, and they had apparently found like the full extent of it, as opposed to the abridged condensed version, which is what everybody had read previously. They found like the original text and like the unedited, unaltered, and they were going to release that in print form. So of course, with the popularity of the property, Sam, everybody is like, oh well, let's make that into a movie, even though we've already had the 50s original and the 80s iconic installment, and then the prequel, which I hated the digital, but I didn't dislike Mary Elizabeth and Edgerton and the cast and stuff like that. So going and trying to do the most faithful ever sort of approach, I kind of think that it depends on who was involved besides Blumhouse, but Blumhouse is very obviously, they have their...
Well, Carpenter said he would be involved in some capacity, but no one knows if it's like to the Halloween 2018 level or more than that, because, man... The Thing is my favorite horror movie of all time, and to hear that Blumhouse is doing it, like, I'm generally okay with Blumhouse doing stuff, but this one, not so much.
So, like, one of our later stories, like Firestarter, compared to this,
yeah,
as far
please,
as, like, the sanctity level of
care,
everything.
But you better not F with The Thing, you know what I mean? That's just my opinion.
Well, Sam, obviously. I mean, what is your... connection with the property as far as the full extent of appreciation? Do you like the 50s version? Did you hate the prequel? And obviously, thoughts about the 80s version and trying to do something more faithful to the source material.
Well, John Campbell Jr.'s original story, Who Goes There, definitely has a lot of meat on the bones as far as doing another retelling. But for God's sake, if they're going to do it, do not reference anything from the perfect Thing, the way I think of it, John Carpenter's version. Leave that the fuck alone. And if you're going to do this, do it from the story. And for God's sakes, get somebody in there. Don't hire Mr. Hot Fancy Pants video director. Oh, well, his video for Dua Lipa, it got 10 billion hits, so we'll get him to direct. It's like, fuck that.
Yeah, that's the knee-jerk reaction so much lately, right?
Yeah, and that usually ends up what's happening, and then it gets ruined. But get somebody that knows what the hell they're doing. Chuck Russell, if he's still directing.
Amen. Awesome.
Wow. Tom Holland, if he's still directing, get him in there. Or even Joe Dante, who's still active. He's still doing different stuff. I'm not sure what the quality is of the things he's done recently, but I would just trust him on resting on the laurels of like Piranha and The Howling and his previous pedigree. But yeah, get somebody that knows something about horror, not some young hotshot who did a video that went viral all over the place. And it's like, well, let's have him direct because he's a hot name now. It's like, no, don't do that.
So then, more modernistic human version of the creature, like we saw in the original 50s, or that,
No humanoid.
Well, I mean, I don't know.
Do it, but make sure that it's all practical, no CGI, because audiences are now so much more sophisticated now. They can tell. It's like, Jesus, did they run through a computer? Yes, they did. Oh God.
Well, but some CGI enhanced practical is really good.
Yeah,
nowadays.
Yeah, like a prosthetic augmentation on face and arm and
That's
whatever.
okay.
That gets like a little flourish.
It's not full-fledged
like
CGI, but it is still CGI technically.
Well, and that's the. Sorry, Sam. Go.
My gold standard on CGI is Game of fucking Thrones. When you can,
they had multiple millions of dollars per episode, though. Sam, come on now.
HBO, yeah, I know. They have bottomless pockets.
Yeah.
Although with the love of this property, and sorry to interrupt, Sam, I think that they would throw that kind of money at something like The Thing and how big it has become.
Blumhouse wouldn't. No. Blumhouse is known for being cheap about movies.
They're still owned by Universal, and I mean, maybe for something like this, they would throw serious money to make stuff look that good.
Point out a single Blumhouse movie that has done what a movie like The Thing would need to do.
None.
Blumhouse doesn't do those kinds of movies.
None, but the thing is, maybe this would be the first time with the sort of returns that they would, understand could be possible, that they would be willing to toss that kind of cash.
Jason Blum doesn't strike me as the guy that's like, oh, let's think outside the box and try something new. He's very, let's do what works. So I don't know. That's just my opinion.
I was just glancing at the chat to see if anybody thinks that's even possible. But what do you guys think there in the chat about another Thing movie, a more faithful adaptation to the original source material? And that's where we're at.
Well, Cecil would understand this reference. Blumhouse today is like our modern day version of American International Pictures, basically.
Okay. All right.
It's, come up with a concept, a poster, write the fucking thing, get it on the set, bing, bang, boom, shoot it, move on to the next one.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think you're wrong about that. Well,
I mean, for me, that was kind of the mentality I saw with Full Moon and even Trauma and, stuff like that,
exactly.
Although it just wasn't theatrical a lot of the time. So, Anchor Bay, that was another one where they wasn't, was Dead and Buried in Anchor Bay? I can't remember, but, maybe
I think
I'm wrong.
It was.
Yeah, I think so. They had kind of that motif as well. But, with so much to speed through, Cecil's looking, he's like, hey, Fuego,
we got so many stories,
slow. Go. This is one that's not going to take a lot of discussion. There is an Urban Legend reboot that is coming. And as far as the post-Scream stuff, I actually love Urban Legend much more so than I Know What You Did Last Summer and a lot of those other post-Scream copycats that we had, and mainly because of the cast and mainly because of the creativity of the kills, most notably the pop rocks with the drainer fluid stuff. That I love that. It was a unique concept as opposed to just another killer. There was an angle, and so that's why we're seeing this happening even sooner than the I Know What You Did, which I know there are those devotees for that particular film. But this one is going to be centered in the digital age, and it's going to be about new urban legends that have arisen a la creepypasta through social media, like people on various areas like, Reddit and so on and so forth. I have mixed feelings about it, but I really adore the hell out of the first film. The sequels, not so much. But Sam, did you actually like the first Urban Legend? Have you seen it? What were your thoughts about this development?
I remember the first one being not, it didn't bowl me over, but it wasn't bad though. And I never really bothered with any of the sequels after that. I don't know if were the sequels worth messing with or no, or.
They brought Rebecca Gayheart for one of them in a cameo, and aside from that, I think they did 2, if I'm not mistaken, and one was in theaters and one was direct-to-video. But now, it's not a renowned slasher, but I just really liked the first one, and so that's why, and it was reported on by Bloody and a lot of other places, but it feels like they're trying to combine the whole, what was the... oh goodness, Unfriended. It feels like it's going to combine that sort of vibe, perhaps, maybe. Maybe I'm completely mistaken about that, but if they're speaking very directly about the internet and the online aspect of this, I wouldn't be surprised if they incorporated it. But did you like
Urban
the first
Legend
film?
was good. I liked it, for the time. I don't remember the sequels very much. Either the follow-up or Bloody Mary, the third one. I really liked the first one, though. I did really like the first one. It was a clever spin on the slasher genre at the time. I could never really get all hot and bothered over Rebecca Gayheart. I got more hot and bothered over the cameo by Brad Dourif.
Oh, yes,
than I got over anyone else.
There was a Tony Todd cameo in it. There was it had all kinds of iconic slasher cameos in that original, which I really liked. And you get to see Jared Leto get killed as opposed to just beating the hell up. And
boy, if you want to watch that, you watch this or you watch American Psycho. You can see Jared Leto get his ass killed in a couple of different movies.
I was about to say, before becoming Joker, when people wanted to kill him even more, he was already killed a lot more beforehand, which is just a strange irony in this regard. But I mean,
Robert
in
Englund
the
and
chat,
Danielle
you guys
Harris,
actually
I'm hearing from the commenters, were in Urban Legend as well.
Yeah, so it was one of those. But hey, if anybody cares about Urban Legend, show me some love in there, since I'm a big fan of it. And next up is basically the newest installment of There Would Be No Urban Legend if there wasn't Scream, obviously. And Scream 5 announced that they are shifting now from a tentative fall 2021 to a January 22nd release date. And the biggest thing for me that just broke my heart was that they apparently, the Ready or Not directors, were trying to book Samara Weaving as their new lead in this, and as kind of the torch bearer from Sydney to her. And I was like, why would you even leak this news if you weren't trying to see if schedules would shift and you can, in fact, get her to be a part of this? I don't know. She seemed like the perfect choice, but I'm still very, very intrigued about a Scream 5, but do we necessarily need it? I don't really know. But
I wasn't the biggest fan of 4 because
I love 4.
There were no stakes. No one died.
Well, hasn't that been the case throughout the entirety of the franchise?
No, there's always a big death in the Scream movies.
Randy in 2 was the one that just hurt my heart and killed me. Everybody else, man, I was just like, all right, whatever.
I wasn't the biggest fan of Scream 3 either, so... I need to rewatch them. I need to rewatch them all, obviously, ahead of everything, but...
Which we'll do a year and a half from now at this particular point, but... Sam, thoughts on even a Scream 5, or actually specifically, have you seen Ready or Not, and do you see Samara Weaving as like a rising star in horror?
Absolutely. I mean, she is like my next promotional Scream Queen goddess. I mean, she is up there. She's in the top 5 at least. In fact, the only person I would probably put just under her, does that sound right? Probably not.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, certain people would be cool. They're like, yeah.
Jessica Roth from Happy Death Day.
Yeah.
Okay. She really made an impression on me with that series, and I hope that she branches out to do more horror, and she is excellent.
Yeah, and I mean, Roth, as Cecil and I talked about with the Happy Death Day to You,
we love both those movies.
She showed so much more emotion with the stuff.
Oh my God, with her mother coming back.
Mother again.
Oh,
and
she ripped my heart out, dude.
Yeah, she went from being like, hey, like I'm a cheerleader, I'm kind of cool. I know she wasn't a cheerleader in it, but that sort of vibe, to just having that much more just complexity to her character and the essence of acting. But I mean, Samara for me is cooler than Margot, because they're both these blonde, cast in similar situations, Aussie women. But Samara's got more of a maniacal craziness to her, at least, which I really appreciate. I kind of always felt like Margot is playing,
Margot's acting.
Yeah, she's acting Samara sells it, and
she
I
does
give her,
sell it big time.
I give her a lot of credit.
She's got them front teeth though, man. Them sexy rat teeth.
Well, hey,
whatever.
you know, after Babysitter, after Mayhem, which I love, more than felt the
Guns Akimbo, bro.
Yeah,
Well,
have you seen
I
that?
haven't seen
Oh,
Guns
dude,
Yeah,
watch Guns
with-
Akimbo. You'll
yeah.
see a side of her that you've never seen. She's almost unrecognizable in Guns
She's
Akimbo.
all like tatted up, and
like grilled
eyeliner,
up,
crazy,
like
gross
purple
looking,
hair.
Yeah.
Like it's fucking. She's like a cracked out Ramona Flowers.
It's from the same director who made Deathgasm. If you've seen Deathgasm, it's his
Deathgasm.
follow-up film. Yeah, yeah.
And it's got Harry Potter with guns strapped to his hands.
Yeah, they bolt guns to his hands, and then he runs
How
amiss
he
of
moves.
Samara Weaving.
She was not. Ben Grimm says Samara was okay in the new Bill and Ted. I kind of disagree. I think she ultimately, like, at first I was frustrated with female Ted because she acted exactly like Ted and she would like sway her body and like totally be Ted.
I haven't watched it yet. Don't they both do that? Kind of.
But there's less from Bill for Samara to latch onto than there was from Ted for Ted's daughter to latch onto. Because Ted is the much more motion like savvy one, you know.
I always
like
get
Bill
their
just
names
kind of
mixed
stays
up,
in his
honestly.
little space, in his little shell.
Yeah.
But Ted's like all over the place. And so like Samara doesn't really have as much of a distinguishable personality in the movie as I was hoping she would. It's a bummer. It's the least I've liked Samara, and I love Samara. By the way, just a real quick shout out. Travis Boone is here. Hi, Heil Horror Show. I mean, careful with the Heil. I mean, we don't need to do Heils here. But I just found you guys thanks to the horror ranking and continued on with the King novel rankings a few days ago. I love the chemistry and the passion you both have for the horror and the genre. Thank you very much. I'm glad you found us, sir. Chiller Theater is here. Super Simi said, "Are you looking forward to Ratchet?" That we almost reacted to the trailer.
I was
for that.
about to say I saw it.
We did
tonight
not
in the little thing. That
Yeah,
you
we
had
did not
for us,
because
and
I
we
had
didn't do it.
to. I had to cut it at some point, but
It was a lengthy. We reacted to what, 8, 9?
I think it might have been 9 or
trailers
10 total. Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
and-
Heil is from Dark Tower. Thank you, Travis. Okay. See, Fuego should have corrected me on that.
Yeah. Well, there is a.
That's not the Heil I'm familiar with.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there is like my personal favorite part.
Thank you,
is-
Travis, and apologies.
No, Travis' favorite part for me is I believe it's in book 6, Heil Wordslinger, and it's during the actual Stephen King well, it's not a confrontation, it's just him hanging out talking with his creation of Roland and Eddie, and it's very strange, and Stephen King's like sitting there just drinking beers the whole time.
No Nazi BS here, bros. All right, right on, bro. Cool, that's good. I apologize for the mistake. That's on me. That's on me. That's not on you. I haven't read Dark Tower.
Heil Gunslinger, yeah. But one trailer we did react to tonight is the Babysitter sequel, which is presumably
It's everyone except Samara Weaving
Samara,
coming back.
but there is the hint
There's the
that she
slight
might
chance.
maybe make a cameo.
Maybe there's a chance that she might come back. The Shape Man says Bill and Ted 3 looks as bad as Jay and Silent Bob reboot. Maybe I'm wrong. It's not as bad as Jay and Silent Bob reboot. It's not great, but it's not as bad as Jay and Silent Bob reboot. All right, Fuego, what's next?
Yes, so next we are jumping to the fact that there is going to be another animated prequel to this Train to Busan universe, I guess, which is what they're...
The Train to Busan.
Yeah, exactly.
Like
the
that?
Train to
You like that, Sam?
Busan-verse.
Come on.
Disappointingly, we have not had the chance to see Peninsula, which is the sequel.
Yeah.
Well, like stuck in the same, like, proverbial
It
universe.
is.
so
No,
to
it's.
speak.
It is. It's. They call it a sequel. It's 4 years later. Doesn't involve a single character from the first movie.
Yeah, it's doing its own thing, which is cool. But yeah, it's not in. I mean, I'm not even trying to go to a theater right now.
Supposedly
Anyway.
more action centric than
It is.
emotionally
It's supposed to be
charged.
more Mad Max, and yeah, it is
I'm
going
okay
to
with
be.
that.
It is going to be next weekend here in Arizona, the Deadly Desert, as I call it. It's going to be in some select drive-ins, so I'm hoping maybe we can try to coordinate something. But nonetheless, just like with Train to Busan, which also had an animated prequel that gave some context and just some more insight about this South Korea, Seoul to be specific, zombie apocalypse that was going down. They're doing the same thing with Peninsula. I'm obviously stoked. I thought the Soul, prequel that they did animated wise, which was also directed by the same guy who directed the live action, who has experience in both. I thought that was pretty
really?
cool. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. He directed both the live action film and the animated
Soul Station,
film.
okay.
Yeah, Soul Station. That's what it was called. I guess I definitely have to throw it to Sam and ask about your familiarity with the property and if you're cool with this sort of animated stuff, or if you personally prefer your horror live action.
Oh man, I'll take it straight up, no chaser either way. But as you're talking about Soul Station, I'm still sitting here thinking about that ending. Oh my fucking god!
Oh yeah, the confrontation with the guy you think is the dad.
Yeah, I mean, I'm still thinking about it, going, Jesus, could that have been any more twisted?
But it was so cathartic, though. That's for sure.
I'm definitely looking forward to Peninsula whenever it comes out and however it comes out. And if there's an animated sequel that's as good as Soul Station, I'm here for it.
Yeah, Travis, Sam is he's essentially the third man for our news streams at this point because yes, Sam is a patron, and any patron is welcome to take part in this stream, but there's just not that many that take us up on it. So more power to Sam.
I was going to say, utilize. I mean, if you just want to donate, that's fine. But we would love to interact with all of you who support us. It is supremely appreciated, and we'd like that.
We love you all.
That Kef. That
come on down.
Yeah, exactly. And the more perspectives, the better. Whether it's any sort of gender, color, race, care, area of the world, whatever. I love those sort of just insights from everybody across this planet that interacts with us here. It is damn awesome to experience.
So Fuego, I just double checked, and just so you know, on a personal level, the last Tempe Marketplace show.
On a personal level.
The last Tempe Marketplace show is in 2 minutes.
Oh, well, I guess that's not happening.
It's a bummer.
Yeah, that's fine.
We were tempted to go see New Mutants tonight, but there was a 9 p.m. in theater showing, but there's also a 10:30
I still have mixed feelings
show.
about going to an actual theater. Sam, what is the situation like as far as
Sam? Would you go to a theater?
Going to a theater in your area in Vegas?
Thank you, no thank you.
That's the way I still feel. That's where I was.
I'm so craving the movies, though. It's so ingrained in my DNA.
Yeah, and then Tenet is next week, and I've heard such great stuff about Washington and Patterson's performances and stuff. I'm so conflicted.
Yeah.
Where it's like, enjoyment versus consequence.
I paid the $25 to watch Bill and Ted. And after that, I was like, watching brand new movies at home ain't bad. That was the first movie I did that with, and because I didn't watch Trolls, but I did this, and I was like, for a movie like Bill and Ted 3, I was okay with doing it at home, like. There's certain movies I would much rather watch in the big screen, for sure. But most of them I'd probably be okay with.
Would that one have really warranted big screen, though?
Bill and Ted, no.
Yeah.
No.
Tenet, obviously. Tenet is
Tenet even...
I don't know. I mean, I'm not the biggest Christopher Nolan fan anyway.
I'm not either. Like they're not my favorite movies.
It's like a little pretentious, and I get a lot of shit for saying that. But I mean, I like earlier stuff like Insomnia and Memento. Batman Begins is my favorite of the trilogy, which a lot of people give me crap about. Although I did recently watch Interstellar for the first time, and it's a very emotional experience despite some contrived aspects. I don't know. Hey, if we're on the topic, Sam, do you like the work of Christopher Nolan? And if so, any particular highlights?
I'm not over the moon about Nolan's work, except for Batman. And even with Batman, it's kind of like, I prefer the Burton universe more than that.
100%. Batman Returns for the win always for me. That's my favorite Batman movie. I love Batman Returns.
Yeah, I did like Inception, so I'm not gonna ding him for that. And Tenet, I don't know. I've seen a couple of trailers and it looks good, but would I risk everything going to a theater for it? No way, Jose. No, thank you.
Yeah, not worth.
Yeah, and I got a kid on the way, and so I don't want to risk giving anything to my girlfriend and stuff like that.
That's
so.
where I wanted to go to the drive-in for the New Mutants, and I've heard New Mutants
I know,
isn't even that good.
how good of an experience can that possibly be? What, you're tuning into a radio station to play your movie? Mm-hmm. How good is that audio really going to be, though?
It was okay when I went to, okay, I've gone twice.
If you're going to go tonight, I'll probably go with you because I've never gone to a drive-in movie before.
It starts at 10:30, so that's
we have an hour and a half. So,
yeah,
if we can wrap this up in a half hour, we could make it. But
and plus, with the experience going with friends, it's not the same anymore. It's like, okay, Mr. Laird, we'll seat you over here, and Mr. Jaime, we'll seat you over here in Tucson.
Well, actually,
honestly,
the weird thing they're doing is they're making people sit two at a time.
I honestly don't care about that because it's not like Fuego and I talk throughout the movie anyway. We've gone to numerous movies where it's been like the press screenings and like there just haven't been two seats together and we've just sat apart and then just talked about it afterwards. There's almost a nicer, more direct degree of immersion when you're in that situation because you're not tempted to talk to your friend.
Yeah.
True.
All right, let's keep going, Fuego.
Yeah,
if we want to get to this.
Soldier along if we're going to get through all of this. But yes, very much looking forward to that animated.
If you need to start cutting, you start cutting.
Well, we only have a couple left, actually.
All right.
So, and this is, we're going to go to the smaller one, and then we're going to jump to one that's really going to induce a lot of criticism. So, any R.L. Stine fans out there? So R.L. Stine, as far as, Goosebumps, that is what he's most notorious for, or most beloved for in some aspects as well. I say notorious because of the fact that Goosebumps books, despite being scholastic, were confiscated at
you're giving me goosebumps.
At the Lutheran school that I went to grade school at because my parents just had to have me in a private school where they would keep me under that proverbial thumb and whatever. Monster Blood, Welcome to the Dead House, all that stuff was confiscated, but little did I know, at least when I was in like 2nd, 3rd grade, that R.L. Stine also had more of a YA sort of thing that he was doing at the time, and that was his Fear Street work. And so, even though by the time I got to that age range, I was getting more into Kristopher Pike, Chain Letter, The Last Vampire, stuff like that in the early 90s, Fear Street was apparently beloved, not by me, but by a lot of friends of mine. Anybody in the chat, please chime in with Fear Street. This might be one that myself and Sam and Cecil don't have as much to mention about because I know I'm the youngest in this group, but age is a state of heart, and that is not to say anything negative at all. That is to be like, dude, I was in grade school in the mid 80s, and as I segued into the 90s and there was more YA options, I wasn't even super into Fear Street. I don't even know if I ever read any Fear Street. And so, it's going to be a Netflix anthology series. Good, bad. R.L. Stine seems to have,
I never read R.L. Stine. I read at most a couple of Kristopher Pike books. I read Bury Me Deep. And then maybe one others, but I never read R.L. Stine, so I don't have a horse in this race.
Yeah, I was always a Goosebumps guy, but any familiarity with...
you're giving me goosebumps. Guys, if you want to watch a really silly music video, look up Goosebumps. That was done by Nerdist years ago, because it's basically Goosebumps sang by the Swedish Chef. So it comes out Goosebumps.
Yeah. Well, hey,
It's
just to
silly
let
fun.
everybody know, Cecil put this one on here as opposed to Guillermo del Toro producing a horror version of Pinocchio, which has an amazing...
No, that was just a casting update.
But did we talk about that again?
I thought we taled about that once upon a time.
Oh, man.
When it was first announced,
the casting is amazing for that, but...
Who cares? It's just casting.
I know. I was just really... I was
and I cut it for a reason, and yet here it is. Here it is, we're talking about it. God damn it, Fuego.
Honorable mention?
Next.
No. I didn't ask him. I was just asking Sam briefly. Any care, consideration, who gives a crap about R.L. Stine or...
The Mutants isn't worth the trip.
Thanks, have you heard much of...
I'm familiar with R.L. Stine and Kristopher Pike. My problem is that by the time they started writing for kids, I was already way out of that demographic.
Yeah.
So when I was coming up, we were reading V.C. Andrews, the Flowers in the Attic series.
Oh, yeah. I still remember that adaptation for TV. It was creepy as hell.
Yeah,
I was
Ramsey
really young
Campbell,
when I saw that.
Graham Masterton, William Johnstone, those people. So I don't know. There were YA books when I was coming up. but I was the literary equivalent of the kid sneaking the vodka from his father's liquor cabinet instead of going to drink the Shirley Temple.
There
So
you go.
by that time, I'd already advanced into like Harlan Ellison, a lot more adult kind of horror fiction. But I don't have anything against R.L. Stein or Christopher Pike. I'm just not that familiar with either one.
Yeah, yeah. Now, so just off topic, since you mentioned V.C. Andrews and Flowers, didn't that segue into a ghostwriter sort of situation after the death of that writer, if I'm not mistaken?
Yeah, it did. In fact, the series went on quite a few more books after VC's actual demise. Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting. Okay. Yeah. And they remade that as like a Lifetime thing a few years ago, maybe?
I think they did.
Yeah. I was dating a girl for a while who was obsessed with that series, and like absolute Flowers in the Attic destroyed her as a kid reading that when she was probably a little younger than she should have been. But
pretty twisted shit.
Indeed. Yeah. Oh man. Okay, so now for just the last few stories, and then we will be wrapping things up. Sadly, our awesome time with Sam, but nonetheless, we have a new Exorcist reboot that is apparently in development by Morgan Creek. There was a press statement that they put out to THR, Variety. They all covered it, obviously, as they always do. And there was a very well-received television series a few years ago that I didn't watch, but Cecil raved the hell out of, which was, didn't it have...
Season 1 had Gina
John,
Davis.
And it had dude from Searching.
Season 2 had John Cho.
John Cho, that was who I did. Yeah, I just couldn't think of his last name. And that was within continuity of the original film and everything. So there was apparently a need to not just revive, but as the press release said, and this is what I hope is not the case, I hope that they are not rebooting the original story, and that is the fear of a lot of journalists who were covering this particular topic, but they did use the term reboot as opposed to a continuation, and they've done so many sequels, at this particular point. I know the third one was really beloved by a lot of people that had George C. Scott in it and Brad Dourif. I've been really wanting to revisit that recently because of the fact that I saw it when I was very young, and I don't remember a lot aside from that crawl on the ceiling scare, which is really, really nasty. But more Exorcist, maybe okay, but if they're remaking Sam, I mean, is that sacred ground in this particular state?
I wouldn't say sacred ground compared to some other properties, but yeah, we have drunk
devilish ground
way too many times.
Huh.
Because you've got the first one, you've got 2, you've got 3, you've got the 2 they messed up on. I think
there's like 2 prequels,
Paul Schrader
right?
did one, and then they recast it and reshot it and did it with a different director or something. I don't even remember exactly what went on with those latter-day sequels, but yeah, they should put this one to rest, really. Because I think now that you've got the original, why would you want to mess with that if that's what they're doing?
Sorry, I wasn't trying to cut off. Honestly, I'm not super hopeful, but is this a series that you appreciate or just like not so much?
I want to catch the recent TV series. I love Gina Davis, so I would definitely, just for her alone, I would want to catch that. But this, I'm kind of leery of.
You should really watch it. Do you know how it ties into the movie?
No.
That's... Even I know what that twist is, and it's very interesting, actually.
Gina Davis is Reagan. Oh, excuse me. Sorry, that was an accident. You really should watch it, Sam. If you like Gina Davis and you like the original Exorcist, you should really watch it.
Oh man, Long Kiss Goodnight is my fucking
dude. I love that.
Between
her and Sam Jackson, dude, that is such an amazing movie. That's one of my favorite action movies growing up.
Was
honestly.
that a John McTiernan?
It might have been.
No, that was Rennie Harlan.
Oh, there
Rennie
you go.
Harlan, yeah,
that's right. Deep Blue Sea.
He was in
Deep Blue
Sea, and didn't Rennie also do
Cliffhanger? Yep.
And there was an age of action. There was legit an age of action that we just do not get anymore. 80s and 90s were a glory hole for that particular thing.
Yeah, I'm personally okay with. I agree with Zachary. Exorcist could use an update. I agree. I don't. Again, it's the original movie's never going to go away. It's never going to not be the scariest movie. I don't know that it needs to be the exact same story at this point.
This is where, like, with a great cover song, you do something drastically different from the original material. Otherwise, you just go back.
You're
going to
piss everyone
song,
off if you do, but who cares? You're going to piss them off no matter what.
Yeah.
Like, there are some movies that are remade differently, but at least it's like, well, good. I didn't need the exact same movie again.
Yeah.
There have been numerous
wheel,
examples that we've
alternate
reviewed
universe,
like that.
You know, I mean, different level of the tower to give that distinction. Well, okay, cool. So there's only a couple stories we have left, just down to the last 3. As much as I want to make Stephen King the last story,
Go ahead.
Okay, I will. So 2 things before that, then. Mimic TV
We have
series.
3 stories left. You don't want to make Stephen King last, but 2 things before that.
Yeah.
Doesn't that make Stephen King last?
No. There's 2 other stories before the Stephen King barrage that we have.
Well, I thought you said you don't want to make Stephen King last.
Oh, I know. And there's 2 things before. So, Books of Blood. Books of Blood premiering on...
Sam, are you confused like me? Because it sounds like the math isn't adding up to me.
I think I need more booze.
Okay, fair enough. I'll drink with you, sir. Go ahead, Fuego.
Yeah, so there were 2 more stories before the final story, to clarify.
Well, you said you didn't want Stephen King to be the last story.
Anyway, all right, guys. News and booze. There's a Books of Blood anthology series. Obviously horns up to Mr. Clive Barker, and the fact that I was really curious as to how this was all gonna. If it was going to be new stories in just the theme of his thing, similar to what they did with Creepshow. That has apparently been confirmed that it is not the case. It's coming to Hulu this October, and I couldn't be more excited. It's going to be an anthology film a la Tales from the Dark Side or the original 2 British Tales from the Crypts, where you have stories. I'm not sure if they're interlocking or what that particular deal would be. They've already adapted a lot of Clive Barker stories already with Rawhead Rex and with Midnight Meat Train, and actually the original Books of Blood about this kid who was trying to help with, he's almost faking it, about the spiritual presence of this particular home where him and this team are working at, and then turns out a nasty force of spiritual presence comes and starts carving a book of blood on his body. It's beautiful. It's disgusting.
I like that movie.
The movie was good.
The movie was really good.
Yeah. It combined that and then another story within the Books of Blood. So, are they going to take that Blumhouse approach and to do something every few months or turn it into a full-on series? Because, they've been doing the Into the Dark for a while. They are also behind this, so your beloved Blumhouse, as I'm being sarcastic, is behind this. But we've talked with Sam about just the awesomeness of Barker and how we're learning more about him as of late with Scarlet Letters. And shout out to Robert Dewell, who just read Everville and Great and Secret Show in the last 2 weeks. We're getting our feet wet, man. We're really just figuring out the awesomeness and the nuances of his delightful nastiness. Are you excited to see more of the obscure Books of Blood entries put into a visual sort of spectacle?
Well, Fuego, I know Hollywood's not listening. They probably never will listen. But for fuck's sake, I can give them 2 names to attach this that would guarantee success. Get Mick Garris and Mike Flanagan in there, because they both know how to do a great adaptation because of the work that they both done with Stephen King and with other authors. Look at Mick Garris and the phenomenal job he did producing Masters of Horror.
True.
I am so ready for another edition of that show.
Underrated Showtime series. I mean,
absolutely.
Yeah, Cigarette Burns is a personal favorite of mine. I mean, there are various other really disturbing ones. The mangled woman who was like a succubus kind of thing.
That is where he won my heart, man, because I had the eerie edition. I still have it in my stuff somewhere, where that original comic of Jennifer appeared.
Yes,
and
Jennifer,
almost panel for panel, dialogue bubble for dialogue bubble, that story took the entire tale down to the T. I could not believe they did that. And I mean, that was where I was like, okay, Mick, you are aces with me for life after this.
Yes.
But yeah, if they could get him attached to a Books of Blood, I would be so happy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, some King fans have been a little critical of Garrus, although they all love Flanagan, obviously. But, I mean, yeah, Garrus, Fear Itself, the continuation where they put the network limitations, that definitely sucked. But pretty much everything, aside from the Coscarelli one, the one that I was really, really anticipating would be awesome. And then you've got Angus, where he was locked in the basement of where a person was being held captive. That one didn't work as well for me. But, I mean, there's a lot of amazing entries, and Mick is a showrunner as opposed to necessarily a director, like with Sleepwalkers and Desperation for TV and so many other things. I respect the hell out of Mick. I've listened to his podcast quite a bit, and it's very intriguing and very cool. And he brings on high-profile guests like Mike Flanagan. So, we don't have actual details of who's directing each segment, but anthology horror is my jam, and Clive Barker, just getting more into his stuff over the last year or so has been really awesome. So,
and there's a really passionate following of Books of Blood Volumes 1 and 2, so they cannot fuck this up. I mean, if you're not going to go all the way like Midnight Meat Train all the way, don't bother adapting.
Mm-hmm.
Because they're going to be looking for the gore, for the depravity, for just the sheer scope of the horrors and the wonders that author is capable of.
Yeah, the Japanese director that you introduced me to, who did Midnight Meat, what's his name again? He also did the one with the wrestler that you liked, and then oh goodness,
Kitamura.
Yes.
Oh, Ryuhei Kitamura.
Yeah,
he did No One Lives and
No One Lives.
Godzilla
That's
Final
the one.
Wars.
Yeah.
And
Awesome.
Revenge, or not Revenge. What was the one?
It was the one we saw the
sniper one. Yeah,
the same weekend that we were at the film festival.
Awesome.
No One Lives is dope. That movie is so good, and Luke Evans before he
Luke
became
Evans, that's who I was thinking of.
a
Not
big shit in Lord of the Rings and stuff.
Yeah, I love the hiding scene in that.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm talking about?
Oh yeah, the Tauntaun scene.
Yes, that scene. I was like, what the fuck am I looking at?
That's so awesome. All right, what do we got next, Fuego?
All right, so our last, second to last little bit is going to be what we call the lightning hour of King. And this is just basically a little bit of an update that we have on everything Stephen King related. Every Saturday, hail to Stephen King, blah, blah, blah. But yes, we apparently got an update on the director of the new Firestarter, which is for Blumhouse. Blumhouse is remaking Firestarter. We've reported it on here recently. And it is being written by the co-writer of Halloween Kills, and they're talking about the fact that they are going much more practical gore with her just, burning, melting faces off, all of that other stuff. It's not going to be quite the cheese factor that we had with that 83, 84, I think it was 84 if I'm not mistaken. It's a film that I enjoyed to a degree, and little Drew is cute, and she's got a very nice dynamic with her father in that particular picture. I don't know why Rainbird became a white man, even though I adore George C. Scott. So that is a cool thing. Also, we found out that from a Buick 8, which is a very unknown Stephen King property that I've clamored for an adaptation for a while. It's about a sentient vehicle a la, Christine and Mile 81, but it has some Dark Tower tie-ins. It's been held in police impound for 30-something years, and it has, eaten men, sucked officers into its trunk and all kinds of craziness. Thomas Jane revealed that the film he is supposed to be starring in and producing in has taken on the Stakeland director for this property to finally get made that George Romero was initially attached to. And Creepshow, this isn't King related, but there's apparently a Creepshow book with 2 new YA-leaning stories that is coming out here on September 1st on Tuesday.
Well, he had to do with Creepshow, so
he did. So
related.
him and the Ramiro estate are taking in likeness stuff for this particular thing. So that's something that I have mixed feelings about. Just the fact that it's one writer doing both stories and lack of interest there. But lastly, The Stand. This is the biggest one. The Stand, a lot of people were speculating it was not going to debut this year because of just everything that's happened in the midst of a pandemic, but it has been confirmed to debut on CBS All Access on December 17th with a cast that includes Alexander Skarsgård as Randall Flaggs. And and then Stephen King on March 2nd next year is putting out a new book that we found out about this month. It's another hard case crime, which previously did Joyland and that did The Colorado Kid. Both of those were very noir, kind of pulpy kind of things, published specifically in paperback, a little bit shorter, but it's apparently, once again, about a gifted kid and, supernatural killer, should he use his powers, sort of thing. So that is the King News Roundup in that regard. And Sam, I will ask you, since I gave you a flurry of information right there, thank you, News with Booze, but, between a new pulpy hard crime thing from King, between a remake of Firestarter, I don't know if you're familiar with Buick 8, or The Stand in this new version that is coming, what are you most interested in?
Well, promise me you won't pass out or faint when I tell you this, but I have a copy of From Buick 8 that's still in the wrapper. I have never read it. I've even busted the spine on it because it got to a point where King was writing so much, I was just like, okay, I'll take all this, send it over here, and one day I'll catch up. But I haven't managed to catch up to him since Full Dark, No Stars was the very last thing I read all the way through, and I was like, okay, this has got me back on track. I'll be able to start reading more of the stuff later. But yeah, I need to dig out the box and start reading more of my backlog of King stuff before I can even get to the new book that's now coming out.
Yeah, the new one is going to be a very short one. All of those little pulp paperbacks. News with Boost, great. Those pulpy paperbacks, they're going for that sort of 40s, 50s, just very condensed hard crime sort of vibe. And the previous two were cool, but as far as a Buick 8 goes, it's one that, as I was initially collecting all my hardcovers, I saw it at the Goodwills and the Savers and all of those sort of thrift stores just about as much as anything else around that time in the early 2000s, like post-accident, as far as anything. But Cecil, I'll toss it to you, man. I mean, Firestarter remake, The Stand, the new series,
none of these are King properties
out?
I've ever particularly cared that
Even
much
The
about.
Stand?
Stand is okay, but I mean, there's not much else to say. We've talked about. We know Skarsgård's been on there, so we've talked about that. So.
Yeah,
I will say this much about Firestarter, though: if Blumhouse is going to do this on one of their budgets, get Fede Alvarez from Don't Breathe, because they need somebody that can convey the darkness of the situation and also the viciousness that takes place when little Charlie McGee gets her Firestarter thing on. I think he would be perfect to be able to convey that.
Yeah, he was producing a new Texas Chainsaw movie, and they just fired both the directors for that. That was a news story we didn't include for this. So,
what?
They fired the directing team after seeing the dailies, and they were like, "Oh, this is not what we wanted." So we're moving on, and they went with smaller music video-y, unproven people, like you were talking about earlier.
But if I see the name of the director from Fantasy Island on Firestarter, I'll be like, okay.
Yeah.
Wait for VOD free.
Indeed. So
the
one
final
last story for you?
Yeah, and the final story is one because of the fact that I know you and I both adored this initial movie because we're both creature people, and there were a couple sequels that admittedly I have never seen. I never watched Mimic 2 or Mimic 3, but yes, the Guillermo del Toro, I believe it was his first American film, if I'm not mistaken, 97, Mira Sorvino, Oh boy, Charles S. Dutton. I want to say he was a gangster,
Rock.
awesome guy in that movie, man. I mean, and
Carla
also,
Giannini was in it.
yeah. But Paul W.S. Anderson of Resident Evil fame is apparently he's developing Mimic as a television series, and I think that could be workable.
I think it could be too. Honestly,
yeah. Depending on the network, that
as
they
long
put
as
it
it's
on.
not just the plot of the first movie that's being stretched into a full TV series. If it's literally about giant humanoid cockroaches that are trying to take over the world, like lean into that, then yes, please.
Yeah, because honestly, as much as I love that original film, it's really just backstory, and then people get stuck in like a subway car and then try to escape, and that's pretty much the movie, right? I mean, there's so much more that they could do with that sort of infestation and, you know, adaptation and everything. Do you like Mimic? Have you seen any sequels? And do you think this has that expansion capability, Sam?
I didn't see Mimics 2 or 3, but I love the first one.
I got the trilogy recently. We should do that series.
Yeah, I got the unrated cut of the original one recently. So
yeah, I dig a really good creature flick, and that was just as gloppy, goopy, sticky, awful, wonderful as anything I think I'd seen back during that time. And I saw Kronos, I think.
Oh yeah, the vampire one. Yeah.
So a Mimic really took Guillermo up to that next level as far as creature films went. But yeah, if they do it right and they incorporate a lot more details into like the mutation of those creatures as the series progresses forward, I think it'll be a good property.
Yeah, Paul is apparently going to do only the first film as a director and then EP the rest of the way. And I don't think he's showrunner or anything, but he's the one who's spearheading the project, which is cool. And so, yeah, I mean, everybody forgets that Event Horizon is an amazing movie. It's obviously his best movie, without a doubt. Like, no questions in that regard. Yeah. So yeah, more Mimic. I mean, in any regard, I'm curious to watch 2 and 3, but yeah, that extended cut that's on Blu-ray is pretty bitchin'. So yeah, seek it out, everybody, if you have not as of yet. So yes, thank you for being with.
All right, well, that's gonna do it for this month's News with Booze. Thank you again to Sam for joining us. If you guys want to become a patron like Sam, the link should be in the description box down below. Thank you once again, though, for joining us, Sam. And thank you for having me again. It's always a blast. Awesome, and I'll try and make sure I have the correct movie watched next time, Phantom of the Paradise, instead of being drunk and thinking that Repo is Phantom of the Paradise. So, all right, we'll work on that for next time, but thank you guys very much for watching. Thank you to all of you guys that were commenting and contributing. We greatly appreciate you. Stay tuned. Tomorrow we're going to have a really long trailer reaction roundup, and then Tuesday we're going to be dropping our reaction to the Never Hike in the Snow Jason fan film trailer that finally is dropping on September 1st. So lots of good stuff, and then a bunch of movies. Obviously our review of Spree dropped today. Our review of the other 2 movies that came out recently dropped this week. So we have a lot of very timely content if you want to go check it out. So thank you very much for watching. Until next time, I've been Cecil Laird.
Gracias a Jaime Fuego.
Sam Glass.
And remember, stay scared.
Bammer.
That's right.